Hi, welcome to another episode of I Mustache You Something. Uh, I haven't even prepped these guys. I haven't done anything at all. We haven't discussed format. They just started talking to each other, so I just started recording so I could get out of the way. I think you all know the illustrious, the indomitable, the I can't think of anything that
Encourageable.
starts with I. That's polite.
Encourageable.
The impossible,
The
uh,
encourageable.
yeah, and also encouragement. Dr. Rafik Attia. And I love that you knew I was talking about you. I wasn't talking about like Ray الراجل الطيب الحنين.
There's nothing illustrious about this guy here, so it's cool.
Actually, Ray just opened a pharmacy, and that's where he is right now in the middle of a blizzard in Ottawa. But if you live in Ottawa, what's the name of your pharmacy? Shameless plug.
Shameless plug out here. It's called Meadowlands Pharmacy. So if you have any health concerns or whatever, man, just reach out to us.
So Ray is a little piece of my heart, and Ray was enamored with Dr. Rafik, and they both talked about similar things related to freedom and how much um, responsibility we have for other people's and how we, you know, act on that responsibility. So I thought it would be cool to connect them. And as soon as the video screen went on, Ray's eyes went like this, and Ray said, "What you guys? I mean, you guys don't need to like replay it, but like, what did you say? This was like what?"
Well, for me, it was the moment the screen like lit up with Dr. Rafik's face. It was to me, it was like meeting up with like my heroes. I was getting backstage passes to like a Metallica concert. And then Dr. Rafik went on and tell me that Metallica is nothing, which is fair enough because to him Metallica is nothing. It's hard to impress a man who's got to hang out with Kulthum and brings it up casually in conversation, like it was like it's nothing.
It was nice. Just another human being.
So, Uncle Rafik, who have you met that you think you're like, wow, what an amazing opportunity? Like, I respect this person, I love this person. Not that you were ever starstruck, because I doubt that would happen, but like that you would be like, wow, like that was a real gift.
Well, the only real gift in my life, and that is the truth actually, that I really grew with and met is Pop Carolus.
Wow.
And you have to compare this. Senior Bush, Baby Bush. I met all of them. Everybody you can think of, I had time with, but nobody had an effect on me. Senior Bush was a genuine gentleman, but nobody comes close to Pop Carolus. Zero.
It's interesting that you say that, Dr. Rafik, because
But by the way, call me Rafik.
it's
Dr. Attia in America doesn't fit well with Dr. Rafik. So just Rafik. I'm Rafik, by the way.
it's hard after all of your years of service and all of your years of education, all the things you've done. I don't think I've earned the right to call you by your first name. If you'd like me to, I will.
I insist on it. I don't like you. I order you to.
Ray, he doesn't mind Uncle Rafik as much. Uncle Rafik is like more personal.
Khalas, Uncle Rafi it is.
Okay.
But it's interesting that you bring up Pope Carolus because you may not know this about me, but Pope Carolus, I've never obviously met him, but in a very real sense, I consider him my father, and I consider him my friend, and I refer to him as Baba. Like so, amongst my friends, if I ever say Baba said or Baba used to say, they know that I'm not talking about Ashraf Melika, even though I love my Baba. Like Pope Carolus has always been my friend, and it's weird because I feel like I can bring this up with you, especially knowing the type of person that you are from our brief conversations and the way you speak, is that you strike me as somebody who has been touched by Pope Carolus. Because the current modern day impression of Pope Carolus that we sort of speak about is this very far removed from reality person, when in fact it's quite the opposite. Pope Carolus was a very real person. with very real understanding of human problems. And one of the things that really stands out to me about Pope Kyrillos, and hopefully we can actually have a bit more of a discussion about this, is our mutual shared concept of freedom. If there's one thing that can be said about Pope Kyrillos, that he was a man who understood that Christianity, as far as I understand, you obviously know more than me, but he understood very well that there's a very important separation between obedience and folly. And he was never one to claim that one had to be obedient to an institution or to a framework rather than be truly free to be themselves. And that God didn't want another Abba Antony. God wanted Carolus the Sixth. And so he was just who he was. And that's exactly what he wanted out of his disciples. Would you say that that would be a fair assessment?
It's much more deeper than that. And what I'm curious about, you're obviously born after he Naya, yani.
Yeah.
And therefore you don't have a personal issue with him. How did you bond with him? It's really something that makes me curious.
Yeah. It's hard to say because the Baba Carlos that I feel bound to is not the one of the books. He was a miracle worker, and that's great. I don't care much for it. I never listened to his miracles and said, "Wow, they haven't touched me." As much as his teachings through his disciples. Now, when I say his disciples, there's obviously the famous ones, the ones who are well known. They're usually the ranks within the church. But I'm talking about people who are on the ground level. So, growing up, I was interested in theology. I fell in love with the writings of Abu Namat al-Miskin, and so I started to research down that trajectory of information, and that got me in touch with somebody like Dr. George Bibawi, who was very influential to my learning. And when I sat with him, we would talk about some of the things that Baba Kurlish used to say to him, and it always was very different to me. Like growing up, where the saint was the most accessible way to interact with the saints, and everything the saints would do in the saint movie was immediately a soundtrack of nice like nay or ode came in the background, and life was so sweet. And then I compared it to my life, and it was never like that. It was like my life was bloody, and it was violent, and there was all these aspects. And I was like, so what? Like there's no sainthood in my humanity. And then here you have somebody like Pope Carolus, who in the memoirs of Dr. George says some stuff that seems very different than what you could imagine, and yet is very biblical in its basis. He was very opposed to Gnosticism. He was very opposed to extremes. He was very opposed to feigning what you are not. And if there was anything about him that was ascetic to the extreme, it's because that's who he was, not because he felt like he had to be. Some of the memoirs of him in the windmill, I fell in love with. The windmill to Baba Carlos was not this like heaven on earth that we imagine it was, and we sing songs about Fittahuna and all of that stuff. It was some of the darkest days of his life. And so you look at your own life and you're like, what if this is the Tahuna? It may not be as glamorous, but the Tahuna itself wasn't glamorous. And so I fell in love with him through those teachings. Um, I don't know, and I could be wrong. Like I'm Ashertush. I've never lived him, but I feel reality.
First, let me correct a couple of things that will make. He considers the days of the Tahuna are the best days of his life,
Right.
not the darkest.
Mhm.
Although some thieves thought that, who's this man who's there? And they bludgeoned him and he was unconscious for a while. When he came through, there was a big wolf-type dog that came around to take care of him from there on.
Yeah, the coffee addict.
And then when he was forced by the military to leave the area, the wolf disappeared. It's a dog, they say, call it, but it's actually a wild animal that wouldn't allow anybody close by unless he was told. That's number one. So it wasn't dark.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one day when he came back from meeting Abdel Nasser, and he looked to his تلميذ يعني. I don't know.
His disciple.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, sort of. And he said, "How do you like this day and meeting?" So the boy was very excited, or the man was very excited. And he said, "I can tell you in no uncertain terms, this does not compare to one night or one day in the Tahawuna."
Right.
So it wasn't dark. It was, to him, the life itself. That's number one. Number two, one day, one of the church people, I was involved at that time into politics. One day in the church situation, there was a schism. And the police came, surrounded the Batrakhana, because there was a rebellion coming from a theological school, walking, chanting against him, and so on. So he asked for the police chief to come up. He came up. He said, "What are you here doing?" He said, "We have to protect you. These people are coming here." He said, "My kids want." He said, "They're shouting against you." He said, "That's okay. Kids always do that. Open the doors and let them come in." So strike that one that he was always. And that day not that day, right just after that, I decided we have to fight back. So, excuse me, I went and I said, "We want to do ba, 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 ba." I won't tell you how radical I was. And he listened very patiently, very kindly, very lovingly. And he said, "Let me tell you one thing. They can do what they want, but I will do is pray. And look what will happen." Same thing happened to me when I had to leave Egypt. And it was partly political reasons I had to get out of there. Nothing to do with the church. The day I was going to the airport, I stopped at the Cathedral and ran into he was doing mass, ran in. And I told him, "Say the word and I stay." He said, "No, there are 7 benefits of traveling, you go." And he said, "Do you want me to call the Archbishop of Canterbury for you?" I said, "No, no, 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 no. I go, you pray." And then I learned the lesson from him, prayer. I go, you pray. If it works, good. If it doesn't work, I love to come back. He said, "Then you'll see what will happen to you." And he gave me an agbay and said, "Use this every now and then, or use it." He's a man of prayer. Add prayer to some strangeness that I have never recognized. One day, I was in a British private school, and I'll tell you 2 stories and let you talk. When we were young, I mean, like young, 10 years, 12 years, we used to go to his monastery in, I forgot the name, ancient Cairo, Masr al-Azim.
Is this St. Samuel's, St. Samuel the Confessors, or?
No, he had his own church and his own thing, St. Minas. And people used to go there. And then I saw a lot of ants in there. And I decided to kill all the ants on the floor. And he said, "Why are you doing this?" I said, they're ants. Rafik said, if you want to do this, then you have to make it fair. He started laughing. I said, well, how do you make it fair? He said, you catch each one, open its mouth, and feed it in its mouth. If you can't do this, you leave them alone. So he had a sense of humor. And he would not even kill an ant. Then one day when I was there, I was young, some 3 peasants were sitting on a bench there. That was very traumatizing to me, actually, because the stairway was outside that led to his room and toilet where he lived upstairs. And he decided he was coming down. And suddenly the guy in between the 2 peasants starts convulsing and screaming and talking a different language. He's an illiterate guy. And saying, he's coming down, he's gonna burn me. This was so traumatic to me, this thing. And the 2 guys were sitting on him, and he was really much more powerful than them, moving them around and so on. My poor mom thought that she can do something more useful. She got a Bible and tried to put it on his head, and he spit on her. And I, of course, by that time, I'm pissing my pants. It's scary for a 10-year-old. And he said, now he's coming through the door. So we look who's coming through the door, and it was Pope Carolus. And he holds his finger and he starts praying. By that time, I'm totally scared. And I was going to use a 4-letter word, but in respect to Mina, I'm behaving. So I ran out of the church. And once I walked out of the church, people in there told me what happened is blood crosses came on his galabeya. And he told them, go, don't sin anymore, and whatever. I don't know, I wasn't there. Then he asked for me. He used to call me Al-Askari al-Harban. Where is he? So I came to him. He looked to me and he said, these things will never hurt you. You be strong and don't worry about them at all. And he prayed on my head. And I felt peace. From a terrified little kid, I felt peace. He had this. Then in college, this is the last story. I have much more, but I won't tell you. In college, not in college, sorry, in high school, the results came from England to the school. And I was planning to get to medical school, and the degree was the numbers to get to medical school was from 4 subjects, but you had to have any 5th subject. The 4th subject was chemistry, physics, wherever. And the reason I had to do this is I was very bad in Arabic, so I didn't want Arabic, and they waived Arabic so long as I get examined in Arabic, even in medical school, which was a very odd system at that time. So we go to his church that day in the morning with a bunch of us, and we go for communion. He stops and he looks to me and he said, so we say you speak English, and now you don't make it up with English. Anyway, it's gonna be a year, but you'll get there. And he continued. Well, I got 4 subjects that will get me to Cairo Medical School, but I failed the English literature subject. So I had to repeat a whole year for 1 subject. So he knew it ahead of what we knew.
Yeah, Sayyidina had a way of comedically knowing things and not internalizing the tragedy, but just, all right, this is happening.
Yeah, so I was, well, anyway, we had some depressions from that. I mean, I had the degree and everything. So I went to him and he said, well, I'll visit you today. I said, you never visited anybody. He said, well, we'll see. And that day I was on my desk in my room. I had a big desk and so on. And suddenly there was a fog in the house. And he had incense that smelled like rose. He used to put rose petals or rose something. So I thought it's coming bibakhar. Somebody from downstairs. I opened the windows and look, there's nobody. The thing is coming out of our house. And then my siblings come out of the rooms and say, who stole Bukhur min Baba Carlos? And then somebody rings the bell and walks in. I said, you stole Bukhur min Baba Carlos. I asked my mother, no. I asked my father, no, nobody is doing it. No, there is no Bukhur, there is no nothing. But the whole house is full of it. Oh, well, we said, oh, who knows? The next day I was visiting for some whatever reasons. And he said, see, I visited you. I said, I didn't see you. He said, oh my God. Well, that gives you an idea that his influence on me is beyond measure.
Yeah, and so to humbly like feedback on what you had said there. Forgive me, I didn't mean to say that he disliked the Tahuna, just that there was like when you read Mother Teresa's memoirs on the dark night of the soul, that there were some aspects of the Tahuna that were challenging. And what I meant to say by that is that one of the reasons I fell in love with Baba Krulus is that his trials were very real, and his surmounting of those, it wasn't he wasn't just gifted with these blessings and with these skills and with these ways of thinking. Rather, they were gifted to him not in the form of, here, have this blessing. Rather, here, work towards this growth, which I found in again, because I can never relate to Baba Karolus in his miracle work, in his ability to exercise demons and not be afraid, much like your 10-year-old self. That would have been me, 4-letter wording out of there, right? But Baba Karolus worked for these skills, in that he learned how to not be afraid of them, because he learned by being afraid of them, and then by being shown that there's nothing to be afraid of. Um,
Well, my advice to you is not to overanalyze, because these are gifts from God that are given to you, are given to him. We're nowhere near close to that. And they're given to him not because he asked for them. In fact, I have never seen so much tears and crying by him and his parishioners when he was elected to be Pope.
mhm.
He had no interest of doing that. None.
So, Uncle Rafik, just so you know, telling Ray not to even like underanalyze is like telling him not to breathe. Like you just told him like, Ray, turn your brain off, turn off your heart, turn off your lungs, and just end it.
He
Khalas.
just took me off ECMO.
Oh, at least you know what ECMO is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to put my age, ECMO was started when I was actually a young buck in Mass General.
I wouldn't doubt it if you told me that you discovered ECMO, to be honest.
No. It was my resident who became my professor.
Oh, your resident. Oh, your student discovered ECMO. Nice, عادي.
No, he was a peer. Sadly, he's dying now with cancer. But anyway, he's a great guy.
So, can one of you explain to the audience what ECMO is, and maybe Uncle Rafik, you can also tell us about what you were doing at Mass General, and then we can get back to some semblance of a topic.
It's not going to be the pharmacist among the doctors, so go ahead.
No. This is it's medical stuff. It's useless for the conversation.
Right.
I'm gonna cue you into what I think our host is putting us together, Mina, for, and that is free will of humanity. All right, and I think that's where, at least if I understand it correctly,
And I'll tell you, like, there's an interesting nuance to it, and this is why I wanted to put you guys together, because I'm like, they think very similarly. Ray, how old are you?
27.
So Ray's 27, and
oh, you're a baby.
yeah,
Oh,
so
I'm a child, man.
he could be anywhere. Like if he said 19, I would have been like, sure, yeah, that makes sense. If he said 35, I would have said, sure, yeah, that makes sense. So anywhere between 19 and 35, yeah, somewhere in the middle. And Uncle Rafik, you're turning 80 in
80.
February,
Oh, how did you know that?
because I'm planning a big birthday party for you.
Wait, February.
Oh, I'll be running away in the sun.
I'm a February baby too, so that might be
A
related.
commonality. Yeah.
Oh, what day? We can do a joint birthday party for the two of you.
I'm the 24th.
Anyway,
What's your
yeah,
birthday? I have it saved on my calendar.
now to cue into our conversation, two interesting things.
The 16th. It's the 16th.
Good God, who the hell told you?
You told me. You made the mistake of telling me. Actually, you made the mistake of first telling me you hate birthday celebrations and you don't like it when people make a big deal about your birthday. And I'm like, duly noted. And then like just casually, I was like, so when is it? As if like I wasn't gonna do anything. And then you told me the 16th. I was like, okay.
You're an encyclopedia. I mean, I don't understand you. Are you an orthopedic surgeon or a theologist or a FaceTime guy or what in heaven's name are you anchored in?
I'm not, I'm untethered, Habibi. I'm untethered.
Totally.
So one thing that has come up, like putting the two of you guys together, is that one aspect of being free is being able to see things as reality in a way that other people see them as rigidity. And something that you guys use different words, right? Like Ray focused on the negative, you focused on the positive, but both of you said the same thing about Pope Carolus, is that there was a physical reality and then there was a spiritual reality. And the physical reality, someone would look at it and go, what's going on here? And Pope Carolus saw the spiritual reality and said, listen, God is present. I could be here, I could be there, it could be good, it could be bad, none of this matters, right? So feel free to continue your discussion. I'm really enjoying it. But one thing that I mustache you both is to consider how, what, you don't like that, right? I thought that was really good.
I just think you're a loser. Is just what I think.
But that's not news. At least instead of being a loser in seclusion, I'm a loser, that gives you
Public.
Yeah. So go ahead, stash us something.
Yeah, so at least there's some benefit to the world. Actually, I anticipated you making fun of me, so I wore my 1-star shirt. I love this shirt. It's a guy named Gary something. We saw his show. He's a comedian, and he's like, listen, you don't want to be a 4-star anything. That sets the expectations too high. You got to be a 1-star, husband, and that way, like, nobody really expects you to be, So yeah, so I'm wearing my 1-star shirt for you.
It's a big saying: "He that is low needs fear no fall."
Exactly. Like I'm like next to the ground. Like if I trip, what happens? Nothing. Like it's like right here.
And therefore you become yourself, and you become very courageous.
So why don't you guys? And again, like Ray gave me the eye roll and said, "I mustache you both to discuss this." But what was it about Pope Carolus that made him so free? What was it about him that made him able to see things that we would all get sort of mired in saying, no, I am not free. I am tethered. I am contained to this thing.
So can I just jump in here just to add on to Mina's question, because again I'm more here to learn from Dr. Rafik. I have
No,
really,
no, no. You don't learn from me. I learn from you. You're the up and coming. I'm the out and going.
I have nothing to add, but I want to actually to just extend Mina's question into something is, so because I had mentioned this in the past conversation with you, Mina, Father Stephen Freeman's concept of a two-story universe where there's the physical and then the spiritual, and we're all here in the physical, and we sort of talk as though the physical was separated from the spiritual. But I want to bring up this point again, especially because we have, two established physicians, one of them having been the president of the Mass Medical Board for an extended period of time. How can you, and I don't mean this negatively, like how dare you, but as a man of science and as a man who's seen the realities of intensive care units and the deaths and then the intricacies of the dangers of very specific decisions that you make, and I find it amazing and speaks a lot about your view of the world as one story where the spiritual is not separate from the physical, that you can look at a man like Baba Krollos, who had no formal training, to my knowledge, of any sort in the medical field, and you find yourself being a student of his, not in a facetious way, not in a way where it's, oh wow, this old man one time did this one thing, but it's very real to you, and it doesn't occupy a second world to you. It's not this world of fantasy, and it doesn't negate from the reality of the science and the medicine that you've learned. So in that, what I want to know is how you find the spiritual and the physical not as separate worlds but as one world, the world that we in truth live in.
It's actually very simple, more simple than you think. It's the human body is a corrupt body. We are all corrupt in many ways. And a lot of the rules and regulations that we can actually put together as society make us feel good that we are good human being, good social beings, when in fact it could be just as corrupt. For example, just on the big scale, the Queen of England, the head of the Church of England, was go kill them in the name of St. George and liberty. Well, that's not Christianity. Um, the other side of the extreme is the Christianity that allowed people to tolerate being crucified head down, legs up, because they don't want to emulate Jesus. So the spirit is something that empowers. The spirit is something forever and ever, amen. And it's an ever expanding existence. The body is a confining, difficult physical entity that the spirit, if you allow it, and that's where the big discussion is, if you allow it, it may actually direct the body into a better existence and being, regardless your welfare or not. But if you don't allow it, it's your free will to do that. And this happens all the time. So Jesus himself, whose physical and godliness did not mix. He felt hunger after starvation. He felt tempted. But by his own free will, because of his godly spirituality, he actually said, "Get thee behind me, Satan." And he used weapons to put Satan or whatever bad ideas is away from him, because it is written. So what is the laws that were written are basically to control the badness, but the spirituality is the strength that makes you go on your road untethered and understanding, not worrying about what people think, not worrying about, then just worry about the incident. One of the stories, if you want to bring it up, is we were working in a service for poor young people. And there was a gentleman who took it upon himself that he is the godfather of these hundreds of kids, and he would take them, train them, make them sing. And in fact, one of them is some professor now in Florida. And they would sing hymns, and they would, it was a good service. And suddenly, we all thought he's going to be a bishop or something. And suddenly he was to be married to some woman, and we all saw this is a catastrophe. So I ran to Pope Kyrillos and I said to him, no, you have to stop this. I thought you were going to make him a bishop. With a very, very sad face, extremely sad face, he looked to me and he said, does anybody do well by forcing the free will of another? That is his free will. And that stuck with me now for 50 years or more. And of course, it was his free will, and he married this lady, and it was sadly quite catastrophic for both of them. So again, people separate them as two entities, but they really, it's one that gives the strength to the other. Jesus, how could you be whipped, thorns on your head, spat upon, and you're innocent, and never insult, never swear, never, I'll be like a trucker. And then carry a cross and then have nails stuck into your hands and feet. And then the power is still, the Spirit not only give you power to tolerate all that, but once you pass on, the world shook and became dark, and the Holy of Holies curtain broke, and all sorts of the dead was raised. Now this God-man have raised dead before, have cured sick before, have made the blind see. He could have changed that. In fact, he said, don't you think if I can call legions of angels to come, won't they come and save me? But he went through nature with the cup he has to drink, and he drank it. What does the Spirit do? Give him the strength to go through it in the most holy way you can ever have. And then the reward was his resurrection and his salvation. 2,000 years later, the whole world knows he's God. And that is the fusion of spirit and physical. Physical has laws. And the Spirit gives the physical the power to tolerate your cup, or what is given to you, or what you have strived to get and succeeded or failed.
Dr. Rafik, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No, please interrupt me. It's true.
That thing that you just said there is truly the reason I really wanted to ask. I wanted to stash you something, whatever Mina wants us to do or whatever. Okay, you've already, in our brief discussion here, which is a testament to your ability to read people, really, you've already isolated my biggest fault, is I'm an overanalyzer. And so forgive me for that. And I hope
it's good. It's a good thing.
No, it's problematic because it actually gives me a significant amount of anxiety. And it's abnormal in the sense that I am more anxious when things are going well than when things are going bad. And I like that you pointed out that the physical has lows, but the spirit gives the physical power. And so what I want to ask you, and what I want to know is, for myself, in the world that we currently see, where things are in fact getting more and more challenging, or we experience more and more problems, I want to know, how is it that I can focus on the spiritual in a non-facetious way, not in a way that's divorced from the physical, but is very real. You mentioned that fellow, I believe he was in Florida, who Pope Carolus was sad over, and mentioned that whole concept of free will. I like the idea of free will, but I'll be honest with you, the consequences of free will are frightening. They're like, you use the best word for it. Sometimes the decisions you make in that free will can be catastrophic. And so I find myself, as I grow and as things start to become more, I get the job I want, I have the business I want, I have the relationship that I want, and all of this stuff seems to be physical. I find myself terrified, and I mean that seriously. I'm terrified of the next 60 or so years. How do I allow the spiritual, and how do I rely on the spiritual, so that next time, because you said there are lows, how do I feed the spirit in these times in a real way, so that I find the benefits not just in the hereafter, not just "هتروح السما," you're going to go to heaven, things are going to be good, life is only, but so that my spirit feeds my physical as the physical is real. And does that question make any sense?
Yes, you're mixing two things a little bit. You seem to be you seem to be a guy who is ambitious and have anxiety about success after success after success, which is a very good thing. And by the way, there's a vast difference between analysis and criticisms. Very a big difference. I like to analyze people, but I don't. It is very negative to criticize them. And it's very negative to give your opinion unless asked for. Because I can look at you, you can look at me and say you're bald headed and big nose. But if I don't ask you to give me my what do I look for you? I mean, how do you see me? And you say, oh, you're 4-letter words for meanness sake, you're big nosed, bald headed. I might be offended. You're non. So there's a big difference between analysis, and analysis is a gift from spiritual gift of God. It's an insight. And if you develop it to make it an insight to understanding what world, when people come to you for help, or when you come to have kids, you try and guide them should they ask, or when they're young, and not in that you will be able to guide them then. So analysis and understanding is really a high level of intellect and ability, and it's a gift from God. Some people just don't analyze anything at all. And in business, it's very successful because you can analyze the risk-benefit ratio. And in marriage, is very successful because you can put your sexual and drivers to the side and see whether you have common interest, common values, common goals or not, because if you don't have these three, you're probably going to be in a mess. And so analysis is a gift from God. You take it as a negativity because it's giving you anxiety. If you turn that page of negativity and don't look at the negative part and change the analysis, say, okay, that's the negative, that's the positive. I'm going to try and go to the positive, but if I fail, I understand I'll pay a cost. Then it becomes an asset that is beyond a lot of people will die for. On the other,
Let me ask let me ask the same question a different way, because I think I know what Ray is getting at. I think all three of us are at different stages. And I think that we look to you, Uncle Rafik, as someone who has at some point looked around and said, listen, there's got to be more to it than this. And you had the blessing of having people like Pope Carolus show you what it means to see what there is that's not just this. And I'm sort of following up in your wake, and I think, you know, I've said this to you before, like, how many conversations have you and I had? Like, what, 10, maybe 15? Like, it's not like, you know, we can trace our relationship back to when I was a little kid. Like, we met a few years ago, but we see the world the same way. Like, I look at you and I go, whoa, 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 whoa. I think you know what I'm talking about. And I think you can show me something that I wanted to see more clearly. And Ray is unfortunately like another 14 years behind me. Even
You're
though
a baby too.
no, but like, so like I look at myself and I'm like, oh, I think I'm a baby. And then I look at Ray and I'm like, you are significantly younger than I am. And just like Ray is asking you for advice and you're like, no, I'm learning from you. I feel the same way. Like, I'm kind of enjoying like being in the middle here, because I learned from Ray and I learned from you. And I'll introduce our mystery guest here. And I'm not sure if he's still awake after you guys have been talking for an hour, but I'll ask Jacob to turn on his video. So,
Where is Jacob? I have to see him.
so are you on your phone or your iPad or what? So Jacob, say hello.
Hi.
Okay.
Say hi, Uncle Rafik, because I think he's got it set so that he could only see the speaker that's talking. So.
Uncle Rafik.
Hi, Jacob. Hi, baby. How are you? You're such a great guy. How old are you?
11, almost 12 now.
Oh, wow. And what are you doing?
I'm here.
I know that. No, what are you studying? What grade are you in? What
6th grade.
and what is your interests?
Right now, social studies.
Great. And do you play sports?
Yeah.
What do you play?
I play soccer and basketball.
Well done.
And Jacob is also a junior black belt in karate.
Whoa, I get scared of you, Jacob.
So Jacob and I have these conversations all the time about how, like, listen, like, I, you know, I like, I don't think that I know at baseline any more than you do. It's not like, oh, like I was born like, you know, really smart and like really experienced. Like, no, I was born, you know, bumbling through and confused and not knowing anything. And, you know, when he gets sort of sidetracked or he, you know, makes a mistake, he's very hard on himself. And I'm like, listen, like, you're not the first one to make this mistake. You're not the last one to make this mistake. And Jacob, what is our new thing? Like, when you make a mistake, what are the only two categories of mistakes that we put things in?
Catastrophic and non-catastrophic.
Right. And have you made? I mean, I have faith in you. I believe in you. I trust that you will eventually make a catastrophic mistake. But have you made one yet?
No.
Okay, so what are some things? I mean, if you want to make a public confession here, you can. But what are some things, like, over the last, I don't know, say month or so, that you have done that you're like, oh, I can't believe I did that. And I'm like, don't worry, it's non-catastrophic. Like, what's an example?
Spoon in the microwave.
Yeah. So that was just
probably like the worst thing.
right? That was just a one-time thing, right? Like
That's pretty catastrophic, man.
nobody would ever put metal in the microwave more than once, right? Sorry, what was that, Jacob?
I did it 3 times. I did a spoon, a fork, and tin foil.
Yeah.
Well, if you isolate it from the base with a towel, it won't spark.
Yeah.
But don't try it.
It's definitely been an experience raising a probably kinder and more thoughtful version of myself. But like, it's like, oh, like, no, I completely understand. That makes, yes, that like, yeah, I would have done the same thing, but like, that's not good. That's not good. So for the 4 of us, right, to be struggling with the same thing of, okay, I don't want to make a catastrophic error, right? It comes under an umbrella of different criteria than we are presented with, right? Because we're presented with a catastrophic error is not getting the right grade to get into the right school to do the right thing. And we lose our GPS, we lose our guidance system that helps us to figure out what really is a catastrophic error. Because that's what Ray is getting at. He's like, I don't want to screw up. I don't want to make a big mistake. I want to be able to do the right thing. And I feel like I've lost my bearings here and I don't know what I should be looking for so that I don't make a mistake.
Can I qualify that for just a second, Mina? Like, and Uncle Rafik, you're absolutely right. Like, you know, there is an aspect of ambition to my question, and yet I'm honestly not really talking about that because, I mean, I could if all of those endeavors fail, I truly believe I would be okay. Where I don't think I would be okay is if I were to lose myself, and I don't really know what that means, but I'm not necessarily talking about specific outcomes as much as I'm talking about devastation. And I don't think I have yet. So I love how Jacob, you know, you talk about this separation between what is catastrophic and what is non-catastrophic. I don't feel that at 27 I have any idea of what is catastrophic, and I'm afraid to discover what is catastrophic by finding myself in a catastrophic situation. If that,
then it's too late.
Pardon me?
Because then it's too late.
Because then it's too late, and what is truly catastrophic, I feel, would be something like, and not to be too, you know, Western here, like losing myself in a way that is irretrievable, and that is what I fear the most.
So kind of you feel more like you need to figure out what a catastrophic failure is and what a non-catastrophic failure is.
Yeah, and I
not have catastrophic failures.
I think that's a part of it. My fear, Jake, is that, so like, you know, you put the spoon in the microwave 3 times or whatever, and all of those times you've been okay, and Dad has had to buy a new microwave each time, and that's fine. He's got money, okay. But you know what I'm worried of is as I grow, there become, like, the thing I'm most afraid of is, what if I have nobody there to guide me, and I'm there to sort of see myself forward, but I have no direction. And there's a phrase that I love. It says, you know, to the boat that knows not where it's going. So a boat that doesn't know which way it's going, no wind is going to be a good wind. A wind blowing east and a wind blowing west are going to both be bad winds if you have no idea which direction you're going. And so what I'm afraid of is finding myself aimless, if that makes any sense.
All right, Uncle Rafik. Bring us home.
Since we're talking about, we're mixing a lot of, we have a big salad here, and it's very hard to peel the onion. First, Jacob, this is about growing up, and there is no growing up without both catastrophic and non-catastrophic. Mistakes. The key here is to
Hold on a second, Uncle Rafik. I know what you're saying. You're saying that growing up is about both catastrophic and non-catastrophic mistakes, but I don't know if you're putting your finger on the microphone, and I don't want anybody to miss what you're saying. So try that again.
I didn't put my finger here.
Okay, good. And are you near a kitchen? Like, is someone like, you
No,
know,
that's downstairs. That's downstairs, and Janet is emptying the dishwasher.
Oh, I see. How many dishwashers do you guys have?
Only one. We are very simple livers. No, keep going, Janet. It's okay. Yeah. No, it's okay. Just don't bang the. No, it's okay. Since we're talking about ships and boats, let me tell you a simple philosophy. And an example that, well, no, maybe I wouldn't say that example because we have Jacob.
How nice it is that you know, kind of.
No, it's not. Okay. Psychology and psychiatry define two ways of rearing children. I espouse one of them, not the other. And that is, you can captain your kid's life, your kid's boat, and that kid will definitely not fall in a lot of troubles at all because you have more experience. And you know this will lead to problem, this will lead to this or that, and so on. So there is a protective failure, but protection against failure. But someday along the line, somewhere, you will actually not be around, whether it by death or by marriage or by whatever. And that kid is used to be managed, told, directed. The policeman is outside. So they go through a very difficult time, to say the least, because it's too old to train, to undo the old systems of function or navigation and to rebuild new separate ones. There's another way of bringing kids up. Instead of saying, don't do, here it is, you become the harbor. The kid has to go out with his boat, but he always has to know that there is a harbor here. What does the harbor do? Constantly gives a signal, I am here, whether it's electronic or light. I am here for you, I'm here for you. Constantly, if you come, he is protected, forgiven, loved, cared, refurbished. His boat is refurbished, filled up again, and sent out to the world again. So if the father and mother are the harbor, they will let the kid navigate his boat. And sometimes they fail the navigation, the kid, and would just consult with the father or mother to say, what shall I do? You tell him, well, do this, that, and the other. Like, for example, my father grew me that way. My mother grew me the opposite. اوعك تعمل يا ولد، اوعك تسود يا ولد. أبويا الله يرحمه said, come and sit next to me here. What is it that you want? Said, well, I want to go to this party. Okay, let me tell you the dangers of the party that I fell through. Or I fought against and protected. And I would wish that you understand that this is the risks, this is the benefits, and here's the key, go. And therefore, when I went to England, when I went to Holland, when I came back to America, when I came to America and so on, I could make making my own decisions was a very easy job. Now I'm a father, and we have another kid who is going through a lot of problems because of my ex-wife left me, divorced. Ended up in it. Anyway, should I actually tell him what to do or not what to do? No, I didn't. Sometimes it broke my heart that he was going to do XYZ without going into details because of baby. But I actually sat with him and I said, this is the risk benefit. And then I went and prayed. And the most fascinating thing that happened, and I can remember the exact day, I was so shook that he is thinking that way and maybe would even participate in certain things. That I went to my bed and started praying. The Baba Krul said, like, let them do what they want, I'm praying. Half an hour later, somebody knocked at my bedroom. I didn't answer. The door got opened and my kid came in. He can't remember anything, but knelt next to me and said, Dad, never again, will never happen, I promise you. And that was it. He is now an assistant secretary of the state with 2 kids and a happy wife. He made his own decisions. I can't make that. His policeman was built in him and he did right. And that's as a father, so rearing and you are trying to remove the anxiety, but you can also let them make their decision and let them learn that even in simple decisions like the microwave, there is a cost. And he's going to pay the cost if he doesn't understand. And then teach him that cost is not that bad in our family, but could be very bad to other families who can't afford a thing. And teach him what microwave is. Do you know how they discovered the microwave? They were actually doing anti-aeroplanes, and some guy went very close to it and got cooked. That's exactly the real story. And then when they did a post-mortem, they discovered he was cooked from inside, not outside. So they did the microwave oven. And as a result of which, you can isolate the metal. Like yesterday, I cooked a pie with a metal dish, but I put it on top of a towel or a paper, and it heated very well and no sparks. If you watch it, of course, if it sparks, you stop. Yeah. But it didn't spark. So it's an educational. You use a failure to educate, whatever the failure is. You use the failure to educate. But the key and the thing is 2. Put the policeman in the kid and make him the captain of his own boat, and 2, keep friendship. So there is nothing he cannot come and tell you. Don't go crazy that, oh my God, how dare you do this or what you do? That's out. Jesus, when the prodigal son took his inheritance when the guy's alive, went wasted it, and ended up into a pigsty. The pigs were eating better than him. And he said, I'll go to my father, see if he'll forgive me. He didn't only forgive him, he gave him a party and met him and hugged him. He became the harbor. He didn't tell him, how dare you did this? How bad you did this? Why did you waste my money? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? That is not a rearing, that is controlling. And you will disappear and he will not be standing on his feet. So that ends my discussion from the Bible. That's rearing. As for anxiety, if you allow your spirituality to grow by praying or being, spirituality comes from the mataniyat that they do is exercise. The fasting is trying to deny your fleshly pleasures or control your fleshly pleasures. Try and see how you can control it to some extent and allow it to some extent. Um, and that's strength. And then having core principles. The only thing that really rattles me to the core is when my core principles are violated. I violate my core principles. That rattles me to the real core. And what makes me quite stronger and maybe disappointed but happy is when I challenge somebody who violated my core principles. And I argue with them and say, I'm not going to do this or I will do that. And then I pay a price. There are hundreds of stories I can tell you about that. But I paid the price. And I said, I'm happy to pay that price because the violation of my core principles is not allowable. And I did it and I paid the price. And at that time, it was hard to take. But overall, I mean, a couple of days, a couple of months, or a couple of years later, I knew it got turned the bad into fantastic. So if you have a core principles, and that's what you want to instill to your children, by being a friend and a counselor and a supporter and a director and giving him the risks that he cannot see and the benefits that he may not see, then you're okay. You will have setups, you have setbacks. In a marriage, it's the same, by the way. In any relationship, it's the same. I remember having a fight with the professor and chairman of Harvard about some of these things. And I thought, that's it. I've lost my job. I've lost. To my surprise, I went to private practice and he put me on his staff so long as I can come and teach 1 week a year or 1 day a month. And I stayed on the staff for 25 years doing that when I couldn't understand why he's doing this to me, although the other guys were much senior than I am, who's assistant professors and professors. I was then an instructor. Wouldn't get that privilege. And then when his family was going to Egypt for a visit, he asked me to call my family and to watch over them. Although he had 5 different Egyptians there who are assistant professors and professors, he wouldn't talk to them, he wouldn't trust them. And then we ended up being friends till he died. And he was younger, no, older than I am, but he died. At that time, it looked bad when the argument happened, and it was pretty rough. I remember actually one of the comments was, my ancestry were a civilized nation, while your ancestry were hanging monkeys off a tree. And you're coming to talk to me that way? Behave yourself. And I walked out. This was my principle. He violated my principle. And I stood to my principle. Sorry, I went overboard, but it is what it is. That's what I think.
You're my hero, man.
Ray, do you have any follow-up questions for Uncle Rafik?
too many for the podcast, but he's about to know. He's about to know my name. Is all I'll say. He's about to remember me.
Uh-oh, what does that what does that mean?
I am going to be a thorn in your side. I'm just gonna find a way to reach out to you 1,000 times a day with questions.
Well, you're giving me a lot of credit that I don't deserve. Most of
Deserve or
the
not, I have so many questions for you. So
oh, you're welcome. But,
How about one question, right? One question for the road.
okay, so if I would have to ask one question is, I won't beat around the bush. You're you're an elderly man. You're growing old, and I feel like you've experienced so much. And I don't want to look at your accomplishments and just go, wow, he accomplished so much. And I don't want to ask you how, because I don't care. And I don't want to know, what I can do to get there, because I don't want to get there. What I want to know is right now, in the quietude of moving forward in your life, if there is one thing, and I know this is very hard, and I'm not going to hold you to one thing, but for me right now, what is, you talk about these core values that you refuse to have shaken. What is one core value that you think is ubiquitous enough, that or ubiquitous as in is something that pretty much everybody should at least consider to have as their core value? What is a core value that now you look back on your life, and no matter what successes and failures you had, you are thankful that you maintained this as a core value? What is one of those core values that you think I should consider? Not that you say you should have it, because we all define our core values, but what is a core value I should consider?
And Jacob and I are both intently listening to the answer to this question also.
It's very, very hard to single one because it's a multitude of little things. But the one that sticks very hard in what made people, we all seek love of others and respect of others, and I respect them and love them. So then you have a community of people that benefit. Is that you take yourself out or self-interest out of any equation when you are asked to help or when you are asked to give advice. You can use your experience and so on and declare it, but and that's why a lot of people know my life as an open book. In a way, they know everything about me. But the advice must be directed to the benefit of the person. Where is that based on? Is do unto others what you would like to do unto yourself. So love your enemy, do good to them that hate you. It's this last comment that Jesus said that makes me feel very difficult to challenge, but once you do it, those who hate you come down to love you. And that reflects all over the place. And Jesus said it actually. If you want to be a fantastic human being, which is hard for any human being, but if you want to strive to this, use the words of Jesus. Don't use Paul and this and that and the Bible and just go to the words of Jesus. It is simple, it is straight, it is clear. He never judged anybody except when he wanted to correct them, like in the synagogue, when he said, "You made it a den of thieves." That's the only time. But even when he was abused and so on, he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." The woman who was going to be stoned, any one of you who wants to condemn her, let him throw the first stone. Woman, what have I has anybody accused you? That's the word. And she says, "No, Rabbi." He said, go and sin no more. We start saying, oh my God, this girl went to this man, this boy, this family, this rich, this poor, this that, but that. Just forget it. This is a human being that God loved. So that's, if there is one thing, it's what Jesus said. If there's an 11th commandment, love. And when I mean love, there are 5 different loves, not one, 5. There's the love of a child. That's actually, if you go to the language of Greek, we call it love everything, but they have 5 different words for it, very distinct. The love of a parent, the carnal love, the love of God. Anyway, there are 5. I can't quote them now. Some people ask me to marry them, officiated into marriage, and I always pull it up and tell them about that. So.
Wait, did you actually marry them?
Yes. Well, yeah, so you're pressing a button here that's a little bit difficult. But
I've already planned my text message to my girlfriend to ask her if you can marry us. To be honest, I'm bringing up the conversation today, hands down.
But you're a Canadian. In America, they give me a license to marry people, one or 2 a year. So you just do that, and then marriage is a civil contract. So they go ahead and do the civil contract afterwards or before, so whatever.
So, Ray, let me get this straight. Usually, women want to be proposed to as, I love you, will you marry me? But instead, you're proposing,
I love Uncle Rafik. Will you allow him to marry us? Yes.
I think you're going to have us both excommunicated.
No problem, man. I'm already on my way out, apparently.
I mean, you threw away 2/3 of the New Testament, by the way. Like you're like, سيبك من الكلام ده.
He's like, Paul.
Okay. No. There is something you have to use your spirituality to understand. Human beings like control. That's a reality. Whether you go to ancient Egypt, the people who sat into the big thing was control. God never had control. He had the full control of the whole world, but he never exercised it. He didn't exercise it against his enemies who were beating him up. So look at, I can't remember the name in the Old Testament, who was plagued with diseases and so on.
Amen.
And he said, they told him, renounce your God. He said, no, I won't. And then what happened to him afterwards? He became healed and he's well. The thing is that society likes to control. So if you go back to what you said, Paul is a spiritual guy. He had a miracle and he became a good guy. But the truth is, he injected his Jewishness into what he instructed the churches. So he became, in a way, he introduced all the Jewishness against women. Now tell me, for all, I argue this with everybody, and I mean church popes and everything. Why would a woman who is menstruating won't have communion?
I've been the number one against that in history. But that's clean of this.
No, but let's go back to that. The woman who was bleeding touched Jesus, touched him himself. And guess what happened to her? She was cured.
Mm-hmm.
So where did that come from? the Jewish infiltration of Old Testament. And then why is it that when it is a boy, she is cured in 20 days, but when it's a girl, it's 40 days? What ridiculous thing is that? Who put it in the church? Historically, what put it is male priests who want to control. Why do women have to cover their hair, but men don't have to cover their bald heads? They look more ugly. The Jews cover their bald heads. It's again and again and again and again. So if you want to be spiritual, just pick up all the red, get a Bible with the red words of Jesus, and make that your foundation principle.
Absolutely. I don't disagree. I will say.
And don't forget one thing. You need a community to help you to continue growing. In my experience, and I don't tell you, in my experience, I find it absolutely good to have experience with everybody. Protestant, Catholic, Christian. But the most spiritual I found is the Coptic Church, the Orthodox Church. So nobody's perfect in humanity. And the Coptic Church is not perfect either. But the truth of the matter is that it helps your spirituality a lot if you can analyze your theology through Jesus Christ and what he said. I have a little booklet here that my cousin did. He just picked up all the red words of Jesus and parables and put it in a book and gave it to his kids and said, that is your principle. Go, be good. So I got one of his and it's hanging around somewhere here.
I like that.
Yeah.
So I'll ask Jacob to tell us one of two things. And Jacob, this is up to you. Like either both are totally fine. Either tell us something that you learned, or tell us a question that you have for Uncle Rafik. So either say like, I've been listening and this is what I learned that's new, or this is what I was wondering based on what I've heard.
So kind of, one thing that I heard that I've learned today, but also kind of new, I guess, was I thought like my impression of like college was like I go to college and like after that I'm on my own, I can't come back. But like I always thought there was an option to come back to the harbor. But like mostly I thought I just had to do them all myself, like by my own.
Yeah, just to clarify, so this is a common message in the Masiha household, is there's going to be a day where I'm not around, exactly like Uncle Rafik said, and that you're going to have to fend for yourself, right? That's a common message here, where, my goal isn't to tell you what to do and like, follow you around and make sure that, you've done everything right, but, just to be around, to help you and guide you as best as I can. So what I would say is that I think Uncle Rafik expressed it better than I have. And as long as you recognize that you have a sailboat, not a houseboat, that you come back to the harbor and then go back out to the ocean, and that you don't just park the boat in the harbor because that's where it's safe, and like as long as you don't leave the harbor.
So basically, like you have a sailboat in the beginning, but like once you gain more experience, you get like a better boat. Like it goes from a sailboat to maybe like, and then it just keeps becoming like a better boat. And like the better the boat that you have, like the more experience you have.
I mean,
100%. You're just one hell of an intelligent guy. Did you know that? But there is one thing that you can learn from today, and I can learn from you too, by the way. You just taught me something right now, is that the more you have experience, you go from a sailboat to a yacht, from a yacht to a big ocean rider to even air carrier, so you can fly jets and come back to it, whichever. And the answer is you have two ways of learning. You can learning by hard knocks, which means you do something, you fail, and then you don't do it again. Or you can actually avoid failure by using somebody who has more experience and has rediscovered the road, the right road. There's the right road and the wrong road, right?
So kind of having, instead of you being the only person on the boat, you have like another person who has
No,
more
they are in the harbor. They're not on the boat. They're in the harbor. The boat is yours, man. You're the captain. Nobody else but you. They are in the harbor, but you can talk to the harbor master, who I'm going to call your best friend, your father, your mother, your priest, somebody outside. I'm a best friend of some people who can't talk to their parents because they are Saidis.
hey, watch.
Yeah, you're a Saidi too, are you?
Yeah, take it easy on that.
مش شايف
So-
الشنب طبعا صعيدي.
So let's say your dad is your best friend. You come to him with the problem and say, Dad, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And he'll give you his experience, but you have to make the decision and you pay the price. And then that means you have moved your boat from a fish sail into a bigger sail, into a motorboat, into a yacht boat, into how long, and so on.
And even the biggest boat, like, you know, I don't think there are any boats that are like permanently at sea. So I think it's a good analogy, and like the changing of the boat and the resiliency of the boat doesn't change the fact that it's still a boat that needs maintenance and needs a harbor, and like you know, at any stage. Like, yes, maybe Jacob needs more support than Ray needs more support than me, I need more support than you, but all of us still need to some degree a harbor and a safe haven.
100% right. And you are the harbor for Jacob. But the truth of the matter is that Jacob has to choose to come to the harbor.
Yeah.
And he has to choose to make you your friend. And you have to choose to be his friend, not his director. That is the biggest step a father has to do, or a mother has to do.
Jacob, who makes mistakes?
everybody.
Especially who?
Everybody.
But like who did you not think made mistakes, and then you realized, man, he's just as much of a
He doesn't want to run his father down in public, so just give him credit.
this is a standard exchange, so you know, tell the nice people who makes mistakes.
Everybody, but you like to tell me that it's especially you.
Yeah, especially me. And what like, do we like mistakes? Like, do we look to try to make mistakes?
No.
No, but are they gonna happen?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what do we do with mistakes, Jacob?
We just try and learn from them, I guess.
All right.
You are a very exemplary young man, and I mean that like sincerely.
His sister's mad that she wasn't on here, because I was thinking, like, I need a fourth for Ray and Uncle Rafik. I'm like, who am I gonna do? And I'm like, oh, I know. I'll bring the mystery guest, Jacob. And I was like, Jacob, what are you doing Saturday? You wanna do this mustache interview? And he's like, sure. And Sophia's like, can I come? And I'm like, no.
Oh, that's not fair. You're a misogynist.
I'm not a misogynist.
He's been reading too much not of the red text.
Yes,
Yeah.
No, I agree, and Sophia has her gifts as well as Luta. Like all three of them have their special gifts, but as it relates to this conversation about freedom, and as it relates to the analysis and over analysis, and like, you know, like, am I doing a good job? Am I not doing a good job? Like, oh, but I made a mistake. I need to go hide under my bed. Like this is one of our twins here.
I think
Welcome to the
actually
club.
about over-analysis and under-analysis, I think I can actually relate to that sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing in the minds that we share. And that's why I think Mia did a very good job of bringing us all here together, because we can sit and say, you know, this is the underlying problem. And I think one of the great things that Uncle Rafik mentioned is, you know, look to the harbor, and the people at the harbor aren't perfect either, right? They're just other people at the harbor for you to get ideas from. And that's why us four are on here. None of us are perfect, but you know, we're all here trying to learn from each other and try to share in our past experiences, what's worked and what hasn't. And I mean, thank you for telling me what works at your harbor, and I'll try to copy it onto my ship a little bit.
Yeah, but don't forget, over-analysis is a blessing, not a curse.
I'll take it from you, but
Oh, it's a blessing, so long as you don't make it judgmental. It's really a blessing. It's a good guidance.
yeah,
Just make the template of analysis Jesus.
absolutely.
Yeah. Then you're fine.
The best harbor master there is, the only perfect one.
Absolutely.
All right, team.
All right.
Thank you all very much. And
Thanks.
whoever's still listening, thanks for sticking it out.
Yeah. Take care. Love you guys. And